Hello, this is Rafa. Welcome to another page in my homesteading diary. Welcome back. Today I'll be feeding my compost. Let's talk a little bit about it first. What is compost and why do we do it? Compost is basically the organic matter that we get when we let things decompose and it becomes nutrient rich. It makes a great economical fertilizer for our grow spaces. And so instead of spending a lot of money on commercial compost, we can just create our own, and it's less trash in the landfills and less waste in the kitchen. So what can you put into compost? Well, it's basically made up of carbon and nitrogen. Anything that's brown and organic will be referred to as the carbon, and anything that's green and living is going to be referred to as the nitrogen. Now, although I have taught science in past years, I'm not making this channel about science, okay? This is a channel for me to just go out, let nature do what it does, and enjoy myself. I've seen channels where they get into taking the temperature of the compost and breaking down how many parts of carbon to how many parts of nitrogen you need and all of that. It's too complicated for me. I'm just not that, my mind doesn't work that way. What I do know is if you basically have equal parts carbon and equal parts nitrogen, you should be relatively fine. Temperature-wise, I'm not concerned about it too much because I'm not adding any manure or anything like that to my compost where I need to be mindful of killing off those kinds of bacteria. So, what I put in my compost, any kitchen scrap that I have, although I do try to stay away from seeds or sprouting things, or at least the ends of whatever is sprouting. I try to stay away from putting that in because when you add that to your compost, you end up with volunteers down the road. You know, you end up with vegetables that crop up wherever they land. I put empty paper towel and toilet paper rolls in my compost, cardboard boxes. You do not want to put anything that has labels or dye in it. You don't want to put anything that is meat-based or has grease in it. You can put in eggshells though, and if you eat crustaceans like shrimp or crab, you can grind those up, the shells of those, and add it to the compost as well, and that's very good. But I pretty much just stick with the bananas, whatever leafy greens I'm making, fruits, and all of that. So how do you prepare your compost? You want to start out with a little bit of soil so that it has some living bacteria already to kickstart things. And then you just start adding leaves, grass clippings, and scraps from your kitchen. You could even put twigs in there, anything like that. The twigs and the leaves, the dead leaves, they are going to make up the carbon component of your compost. Put it in there, and in a few weeks it all breaks down and it ends up looking like really rich soil, and it's very good for your vegetables. Vegetables, flowers, trees, any of that. It's very good. You just mix it in with the soil and things just thrive and grow. You do want to turn your compost every so often. So I have a compost bin. I started out with 3 5-gallon containers, and because it needs a little oxygen in there, I had holes on the top. But you still have to stir it up every so often. The compost bin that I have, you rotate it, and that gets the air going. If you don't aerate your compost, you're going to end up with a gooey mess, and that's what you don't want. Now, if you're like me and you're not concerned about the scientific aspect of the breakdown of the organisms and all of that, that's fine. But one thing we have to keep in mind is that we do have to prevent it from becoming just a wet, gooey nightmare. Okay, for lack of a better way of explaining it. Over the weeks, I collect paper towel rolls and toilet paper rolls, and I could put it directly into the compost just like this. However, if I cut it up or tear it up, it's going to decompose a lot and break down a lot faster. Any packaging that you get from boxes, Amazon orders, save them. If it doesn't have a lot of, if it has labels on it, just take the labels off. And you can cut those up and add it to your compost as well. Is this time consuming? Definitely. However, if I handled these as soon as they became available, like if I kept it in a container or a bag, that would make it seem less tedious. Also, when packages came, if I just broke down the boxes right then and there and put it in a container or bag, it would be less tedious. If I had a shredder, that would make it a lot easier, and it would break down a lot faster because the pieces would be very small. So I'm going to head over to the compost. Come with me, let's take a look at it. See what I was talking about? We have some shoots coming up in the compost. I don't know what it is, but if I plant that in my garden, it's gonna turn into some sort of vegetation, which is a nice thing. I'm not gonna do anything about it. I'll just let it continue to do what it does. And when I use this compost in the spring, then we'll see what becomes of it. I have a little compost bin in the kitchen that I use to save these scraps. And then every so many days I come out and just empty it into this bin. I forgot to mention that another great source to add to your bin is your coffee ground, your used coffee grounds, and your tea bags. Don't forget that. Some people even go to local coffee shops, and they'll give them the used coffee grounds for free. If you have time, consider doing that. I don't know if you can see the eggshells. I grind them up so that they can break down faster because the eggshells take a long time to break down. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that a little sugar helps to break everything down fast as well. Now, some people say that they add urine even to their compost, which I guess is fine. It's all organic. I don't do that. In here I have some jicama, potatoes, celery stalks, tea bags, romaine, banana, carrots, onions. Uh-oh. Forgot to take the labels off the bananas. We keep a pile of leaves and grass clippings over here, and I add that to my compost from time to time. Where did we get the compost bin? You guessed it, Amazon. That's where we get everything, isn't it? To keep in mind when you're composting is you do not want to put any grass clippings that has been treated with pesticides. When I come back in a few weeks, as full as this is now, it's gonna be a lot less in volume. And then I'll just keep adding to it. My plan is to use this in the spring when I redo all of my beds. So I'll just keep it going until then. When it gets full, I'll stop because my garden isn't that big at this time to where I would need more than what's in here. Another way to compost that's less bothersome and a lot easier is to just take your scraps, dig a hole in the ground next to your vegetable or flowers or your trees, and put the scraps in there, cover them over, and in about 2 weeks, if you go back and dig around, you won't even see evidence of what you put in there. It will just break down and feed the roots of whatever it's planted next to. Beautiful. Here I have some Brussels sprouts and broccoli that I recently moved to this area. I thinned out the seedlings, and I moved them to this area. Here in this bag, I just have some coffee grounds, some eggshells, some bananas, that's it. Simple as that. This channel promotes the goodness in life. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. And above all, prosper and be in good health.